Hey, Lisa.
Hey, Lona, how are you?
I'm good.
Sorry, for some speakers are not working, so she's testing it for me.
Okay. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear it. So if I can hear it, I'm hoping you guys can too.
Yes, we can hear you.
How
We can
are
hear you.
Lona? I haven't seen you for a little while.
I just came back from a cruise that was absolutely lovely. We went from Bayonne, New Jersey to Halifax, Nova Scotia and back.
Wow. Was that with your family?
Yes. Yes, it was with my sister, my brother-in-law, and my brother and my brother-in-law. And my sister's husband has never taken a vacation with, they're married 30 some years, and it's the first time he took a vacation with us and had a really good time.
I was
So
gonna say, how did he do?
he's afraid of boats, but he came on the cruise and he loved it and he didn't have any problems at all. So I said, hopefully it'll be the first of many, which will make my sister happy.
Yeah. Is he afraid that the boat's going to sink or that it's going to?
He doesn't like water, period. I mean, he doesn't
Okay.
like going over bridges, over local rivers. I mean, he's just, I think it's a past life thing with him where him and water just don't get along very well.
We had a musician restaurant that did not like the boat. And so he flew over to Catalina every weekend and he played out of his pocket. We only paid for the boat, but he would pay for the rest. And but you know, one time, well, a couple times, the helicopter wasn't flying because of weather for one reason or another. Oh my God, I've never seen anyone so panicky on a boat. You know, I think actually somebody gave him a little pill and he thought, oh, good, I feel great. And it turned out it wasn't a real pill. It was something else, like an aspirin or something.
Oh.
So, and it helped him though. It's just psychologically, he thought, okay, I'm taking like Xanax or whatever it was. But yeah, he never overcame that either. He worked with us for, I don't know, 12 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was a long time to have to take the helicopter when you want to take don't want to spend the money. So, wow.
That's huge amount of money to do a helicopter.
Oh yeah. It's probably the round trip boat ticket is it's a little bit less expensive than a one-way on the helicopter.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, but anyway, we tried.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm not sure. I just couldn't figure it out. I mean, you're on the biggest boat you could possibly be in our harbor right now, and aside from a cruise ship. And I was like, gosh, how could you not feel comfortable and safe on that? But he just didn't, and not at all. So just.
I really can understand that. You have to be a water person to really appreciate everything. We saw breached dolphins, we saw whales. I mean, it was really, and the weather was terrific. There was one day of just pure fog till like 6 o'clock in the evening, but it was magical. You know, you hear the foghorn going off every 10 minutes, but I mean, like really, like the mists of Avalon kind of magical. It was really something.
Oh, yay. How about food wise? Was the food on the cruise ship good?
So food on cruise ships is just excessive to the extreme. They weren't really great for gluten and dairy free people. There was one bread that they gave it, you know, for a gluten-free person like the whole time. And there were very few options for gluten-free and dairy-free people. You just had to work around everything. And so I would say, you know, Royal Caribbean is also owned by Celebrity. Celebrity has better food than Royal Caribbean. So if we'll probably do another cruise because the family enjoys it,
Yeah.
but I would suggest Celebrity over Royal Caribbean so I can eat better.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I actually lost weight. I think I
Wow. I'm gonna go on a cruise.
There weren't a lot of options, and I baked for myself and put it in the suitcase, so I had my own desserts.
Okay, wow. Good for
If-
you. That's planning.
Yeah, because if not, I would have lost my mind. So
Yeah.
I just take care of myself.
Yeah. I have friends that they went on a cruise. This is a European cruise, a small boat cruise, and they're very, very wealthy people. So this was a, you know, everything you need ever in the wide world kind of cruise. But they had caviar on the boat. And so every day at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, the guy would knock on the door and hand them champagne and caviar as their afternoon snack. And I thought, wow. Only one that's knocking at my door is looking for payment on something. Nobody's dropping off caviar at my house. So Janet's not going to join us today, and neither is Betty. So
Or Idell.
Idell is not joining.
No,
And-
she has her grandkids this week.
Okay.
She said, pray for her. Yes.
We, what was I gonna say about this week? I can't remember. It went right out my head. So it just still feels like I'm just like piled on with stuff. And I think I told you guys that I'm helping take care of my stepdad, and the calendar says Sylvia, Laura, Lisa, Sylvia, Laura, Lisa. And it was supposed to be 30 days. And Sylvia started making out the calendar for August, and it was Sylvia, Lisa, Sylvia, Laura, you know, so it was, and I just reached out to her and I said, I can't do it. I can't keep up this pace. I can't, because it requires that I have to be there in the middle of the day, because, you know, he can't go till the evening for him to get his shots and things. So I just told him, I said, I have to tell you, I just can't do it anymore. I'll be there as often as I can, but because he's sick, I'm running both restaurants, plus his personal finances, plus his groceries, you know, plus pharmacy. Oh, and then all the rest of the stuff I have to do for my business. So, so anyway, I was feeling a little overwhelmed by that. But then when I said that, they're like, oh, well, we understand. I don't know that. Oh, Janet's here. Janet was getting she had an appointment at 11 and she couldn't get in the shower, and hey, Janet, are you there?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yay.
Yes.
Hi. I figured while the guy's leaving so I can drive home to take a shower, and I thought I can talk to you guys or hear you guys while I'm driving.
Okay. I don't need to know where you were before you're going home to take a shower.
I dropped doing errands. I dropped something off at Macy's, but a baby shower is this Saturday. So all my relatives are coming from the East Coast and my son from Utah. I'm trying to get the house looking halfway decent, but you know, my feelings about that. So.
But I do love the pictures you sent of the fireplace thing coming down.
Oh, you should see it now. It's so much better. But thank you guys for everything that you got, suggestions and all that you did. Thank you.
Well, you know, if you need us to come over and offer all of our unsolicited advice.
I would love for you to come over after things calm down after this week. Yes.
Okay.
And then is your birthday. But before that is Nana's birthday on Sunday.
Oh, really?
And
Yeah.
your anniversary.
Yeah, that's how I remember Donna's
I
birthday.
know.
Wow, there's a lot of celebrating. That's great.
Yeah.
Lisa, I just wanted to give you a heads up. I have to get off before 11 o'clock
Okay.
because I had an unexpected visitor today, so I got to be ready for them.
Okay. Well, why don't we get started? We don't have a meditation today, but Marilyn, if you want to do a little bit of your protection of us, and
Yes,
we'll just get started. I think this would be a good day anyway. I've got a lot going on too, so.
And I might have to leave early too. Once again, a pipe burst, it's dripping, and the plumber hopefully can come. This has been since Friday. We're getting a little rank. Speaking of shower, we might come to your house, Janet, But we're hoping it gets resolved today. So I don't know when he's coming, so I might have to leave early too.
Okay,
So just wave and go. Okay.
why don't you protect us?
Alrighty then, let's all protect ourselves and be open to all the goodness and wonderfulness and madness and beauty. So put your feet flat and just feel the soles of your feet connected to the floor. Take a deep breath, feel the shoulders go down. Notice the chest and how it feels as you take soft breaths. And remember that every breath is mouth to mouth, resuscitation with divine consciousness filling you up. And just like the trees, breathing in one thing and giving back the sustenance, we breathe in, and then we process like alchemists, and we breathe out, and sometimes with words, and sometimes with song. But like the trees on everything on earth, we're alchemists, bringing the vibration up. Notice how you're rooted to the ground. Feel the head floating up just a bit. Feel the neck elongating. The shoulders are dropping. Feel how they just drop and feel comfortable. Notice right below the throat in the esophagus, above the heart. Just notice how it feels. Feel it expand with your breath. Feel light. And know that everything from your heart that comes out of your mouth passes through this light and is filtered with love through the heart. Drop down to the gut. Let the lower back relax without really moving the body. Feel the energy of a very slight pelvic tilt. Feel the energy go down the spine, around the sit bones, around to the front, and then cradling the sit bones and going up towards the stomach and up. And just feel all the energy going around your body the way it does. We don't have to pay attention to it. We don't have to direct it. But when you notice it, it knows what to do. We can direct it, we can play with it. But notice when you're not directing it and you're just feeling it, its balance and its sweetness. We clothe ourselves in a robe of light composed of the love, the power, and the wisdom of divine consciousness. We wear it not only for our own protection, but also so that those who see it or come in contact with it will be drawn to divine and healed. Feel the joy and the embrace of the higher frequency. Feel the delight in the openness and allowing interaction with higher frequency. Hear the cat meowing because the cat likes it. And take a deep breath. Please, divine, let your light surround us as it always does. Let it permeate us as it always does. Let it emanate from us and reflect back to divine consciousness and to each other, as we know that we are the divine consciousness. And take a couple of soft breaths. And there it is. Could you hear the kitty?
Yes, yeah, I like your kitty. Thank you, Marilyn. That was wonderful. That's a good way to start, especially, and I'm going to say this with the part where you said from your heart, through your mouth, through the light, so that what you send out is love, right? Which is that word, Schadenfreude. Schadenfreude.
Yeah.
So the word, which word is pleasure derived from someone else's suffering, but you were saying put it up, you're good, you know. And so yeah, that was beautiful, Marilyn. Thank you.
I
So
think we want, was it Freudenfreude is the positive one? Okay, where do you guys want to start? Because this chapter, like I said, it's like got lots of stuff in it. We did comparison last week. We talked a little bit about, oh my gosh, jealousy. And we talked a lot about envy and jealousy.
Yes, we
Um,
talked about, yeah, that, yeah.
I've been very careful in how I use those words now.
I have been primarily using the word envious these days. So, and we talked a little bit last week too, as well, about resentment. I think in the chapter, what we didn't cover was admiration and reverence, and we didn't cover the Josh and Froden and Friggin Froden. We did not cover those. So I am game with, if anybody has one direction they would prefer to head, then let us know. Otherwise, whatever drives you, Marie.
I just wanted to leave it for you guys to explore, because this chapter is pretty, it's got a lot of stuff. I mean, admiration, if we look at, I think it's page 24, she highlights, she said, we feel admiration when someone's abilities, accomplishments, or character inspires us, or when we see something else that inspires us, like art or nature. I have to be honest with you, I'm a fan of Lowe. Love Barry Manilow. I know, you know, he sings songs that make the girls cry and all that. But every time I go to his concert, I just feel like I can conquer the world. Okay. I admire, I mean, he's a true showsman. He puts on a spectacular show. It's not the typical concert. Usually it's like a Broadway kind of thing. And every time I leave his concert, I just leave like I can conquer the world. Like I can do anything kind of thing. And I truly admire this man. I was so bummed out when I found out he was gay, because I thought I was in love with him as a teenager.
Story of my life, Marie.
Yeah, because I discovered him as a teenager, and I was probably the only teenager that had a thing for Barry Manilow. So, and then my husband last 1 year, he had this guy that worked for him. His name was Troy, very Southern man. And he brought him over and he said, Troy, tell her what you saw at Barry's house. And he said, well, he said, Mr. Manilow was very chummy with his boyfriend.
Oh.
Like, what are you doing there? He said, I was there installing flooring.
Oh.
He said, I'm sorry to disappoint you. I was like, oh. So I find, from my perspective, when I admire somebody, I feel like that uplifts me, so that I feel empowered to be able to do things. Like if someone else can do it, then I can do it. I've always felt, in terms of admiration, I don't know how everyone else is defining it for themselves.
So when you're talking admiration versus reverence, to me, there's very little difference between the two. I mean, in the book, she says it's deeper. Reverence is deeper than admiration. But you know, I would almost say that you revered Barry Manilow.
Yeah, you could say both of them. For me, reverence is sacred. Very sacred. I mean, you ladies are very much people that I have reverence for, without a doubt. There's just that sacredness. I see beyond the physical body, I see the souls. And so whenever I feel that deep connection, I have incredible reverence for Charlotte. That dog I have reverence for. She's not a dog, she's a fur person. She just gave me a look. She's like, what are you saying? Anyway, so I do think reverence, comparing it to admiration, reverence is so much deeper than just admiration.
Yes, Alona.
So for me, reverence implies an intimacy that admiration does not.
Yes.
There is a level of connection, there's a level of knowing, there's a level of honesty that is far beyond that in admiration.
And you know, it's funny when you said that, Alona, because you know, I'm thinking of these musicians, like in Marie's case, that you know, I just love so much. And you know, I just feel like they're looking at me on the stage, from the stage. I feel like they're seeing me, and you know, and I'm like, okay, so I feel that connection. It's not a two-way street though, right? I mean,
right.
They're just yeah. So that's that. Is it have to be a two-way street? Is that what we're getting from it? Or is it just really just a deeper admiration from afar?
Reverence engages a whole aspect of the auric field that admiration does not. It is a complete experience of total in loveness being mutually experienced.
I see it as a very deep spiritual connection. Sometimes there isn't, like, reverence is the only word that I can come up when I feel it that way, because I don't have another descriptor for that kind of connection. You know, when I first met Marilyn, I instantly had that with her. There was just something about her being, and it was, I would say, was her soul that I just felt this deeper connection. And ever since, I've had that reverence for her in that way. But that was my connection to her, because I had that so instant. I had that with Janet too when I first met her. I had that with Ilona when I first met her. So it's weird. Sometimes when I talk to people, you can see that and you can feel it, that deeper connection, even at the first time. And you don't know what it is, but it's just this connection. I don't know. Reverence is the best way. Example, I have my cousins and I, two of my cousins, we hadn't seen each other in 40 years.
Wow.
We met up for dinner. We hadn't seen each other since children. We met up for dinner with our husbands, and we were at this restaurant, and the three of us, I literally saw us three above, and the men were like on the side chit-chatting with themselves, and we didn't even take acknowledgement of them. Later, when I talked to them about my experience, I said that's exactly what was happening to us. We were just up above our bodies having this very intimate conversation. It literally felt like our spirits or our souls were so thrilled to see each other.
Yeah.
That was reverence for me.
Like there's so much joy in that.
Yes, yes. But it was complete reverence. It was just this encasing of love and ecstatic to see each other and be able to experience each other. It's like nothing I've ever experienced before. To me, that was reverence.
There's a level of contentment and complete safety in reverence that does not exist in admiration.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah. So the familiarity of that is where that reverence comes from, the familiarity of that connection, right? Maybe. Wow.
Say that, yes.
Yeah.
Sophia, you had your mic off. I just want to make sure you didn't want to say something. Oh, we can't hear you though. You're okay. We'll talk. Okay, you're good. Okay, blink your eyes if you need anything. Yeah, so I mean, and how is this basically going forth in this book? This is just basically identifying for us, right, these different feelings that we could have. I mean, this whole chapter is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just like Sita's list. It's just more words to add to our vocabulary for emotions.
Yeah. I was just thinking she also addresses the irreverent, she calls it like the bonus word. And she was saying that the very straightforward definition she found is not showing the expected respect for official, important, or holy things, of irreverence. And I think about our as of late, these last few years, how much of that have we been showing? Yeah.
It's almost as this book also is giving us words not to use in our vocabulary anymore, right?
And I'm appreciating that, because, and again, it takes us back to the 4 agreements. Being impeccable with your word is to really, truly pay attention to the words that you're using and how you're using them, because they have power in either direction, right? And right. I think that, at least from my perspective, the way I feel is that the terms that she's giving us, it's allowing me to elevate even more when I'm using my words. It's being more careful in how I use it, and being very mindful that it's not impacting someone in an adverse way, at least not intentionally, because that's never my intention.
Yeah.
For me, it just kind of adds on to that, being impeccable with your word.
Well, that's kind of like a, you know, a segue into
Yeah.
Schadenfreude. It's kind of a segue into that because that's being impeccable with your word. And I would think that everybody that's sitting here in front of us, none of us would ever consider doing something like that, right? Taking joy from someone's unhappiness or taking, I can't imagine anybody that I'm looking at right now would ever think of doing something like that.
But I'll tell you, the Mexican soaps, they do it all the time.
I just finished watching Jane the Virgin, you know, and that's all about the telenova. So yes, I see that. But that is a little bit is a hard concept for me, that I would be deliberate and hurtful that way. You know, that's a really, you really have to go out of your way to be not nice to somebody that way, right? With my yes,
Well,
Elena?
I'm just gonna say, the television and Netflix and Hulu, they make a living off of Schadenfreude. They make a living off of it. They promote it. They make it cool and hip, and they teach our younger generations that it's the way to be. So I'm going to say that we are completely flooded with that energy, and it really takes parental control to really say, look, we're not going to watch stuff like that, or that is not the right way to really approach people. And it doesn't make it right if you put it all out there and then at the end of the episode you say, well, that's not so good. That's not appropriate. If you're going to really be attentive, you're never going to do it in the first place, and you're going to find comedy that's really uplifting rather than degrading. But it's just everywhere.
Yeah.
I agree. I think there's a real tendency now, like what was it, Eastbound and Down and Larry David, and all these things started this avalanche. I mean, Succession, they're all nasty. So many shows, they're just, I mean, characters that I liked in series I was watching, I stopped last time because one character walked by and was just nasty to a stranger because she was in a mood. And it's like, no, but it's really, you're right, it's really hip and cool to be extremely nasty.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, trying to find things is tough.
Marilyn, that's
Isn't it when we say they deserved what they got? Isn't that the same thing? So I
Yeah.
think we all do it.
Hmm.
We just haven't looked at it the way we're looking at it now as an extreme that other people do. We all do it.
But you know, like that's like I associate that with karma, right?
Yeah.
What goes around comes around, that kind of thing. But this feels
Right, but
more
you
evil
are-
to me.
You are saying I take joy in that person getting their comeuppance.
Well, they did have it coming, Mary Beth.
Well, you know, aren't we all hoping a certain someone gets indicted and goes to jail?
I will admit to that. I will admit to that.
it's true.
I think that's what,
When Mary Beth was saying that, I was going, I don't know if I do that. But then you just said that, I'm like, oh, I do that.
Sita,
And after he's proven guilty.
Sita, your microphone.
sure, we can justify it, yeah.
Sita, your microphone's off if you want to say something. Now it's on.
This is the only time I really feel like I have to intervene here in this kind of stuff.
This one.
Because yes, Trump was a huge challenge for everyone that wants to have a humane, that wants to think that we're going towards a little bit more towards humanity. I mean, I can never, I just have such a challenge anytime I hear somebody was for Trump. The first question I ask them, so it's okay to put children in cages. It just goes beyond anything I can ever think of. But to tell you the truth, again, I've been practicing for years, 2 decades now, on how to change my mind. And I really believe in karma. I have fear of karma. So I don't want to bring anything onto me. So when I have had somewhat revengeful thoughts about somebody, let me tell you a story, a quick little story about a healer who used to come to my house, and he did for real, what's that called? Psychic surgery. Like he would literally open you up and pull out stuff. It was, and I watched him one time. It was truly phenomenal. The air changes, everything changes. It's really strange. But anyway, so he was dealing with a lot of sick people, 20 people a day, all of these people coming over with really strong issues. And this one person, she told me that he told her that he couldn't do anything with her right now because she had so much anger. And she said, yeah, and she didn't know what to do with it. And she constantly was having all of these revenge thoughts. And he told her very clearly, for the health of her well-being, the health of her body and her mind, don't go there. Just don't even go there. If you really believe, or he didn't put it if you, he just said, put it in God's hands. You gotta believe that God is gonna take care karmically everyone. So we don't have to go there.
We don't have to entertain those thoughts then.
We don't have to entertain those thoughts. To think that even with Trump, believe in the death sentence, not believe in the death sentence. Sometimes I'm going like, okay, you know what? And then I say, don't go there, because the fact is, whatever system we have working right now is the system that's working, and we just gotta let it go. We gotta let that system work. They used to do hangings, and that was, the whole town would come and watch. Can you imagine? So yes, we can choose what we have, the thoughts in our mind. And some thoughts we just don't want to even entertain. And the only way I can get it off my chest is, yeah, okay, let God handle that, because I'm going to fuel the dragon in me if I keep going there.
Can you be Schadenfreude and Freudenfreuden simultaneously?
No, one, no, you
One or
can't.
the other, right?
You're one or the other.
This thing reminds me so much of what Gary Zukav said when the pandemic kicked in and we were all in lockdown, because there was so much of that collective energy out there. And I remember him saying that we had a choice. We could join in with that collective, or we could rise above it. And then we rise above it, then we're making a difference. Right? So it's really about taking responsibility for how we're choosing to react or respond, right? And
the fact is, to add to that, if we want a humanitarian world, if we want a non-violent world, this is Dr. Marshall Rosenberg's basic philosophy, then we got to change our thinking so to become non-violent. So to entertain any of those kinds of things is adding to the pool of violence. You're either going to add to the pool of violence or add to the pool of non-violence. And I think basically that's what those two words are saying, that I can't even begin to pronounce.
put it in the book, Sita, Schadenfreude.
Schadenfreude and Freudenfreude. Carolyn, what are you gonna say?
I have to say though, I'm still amazed because, like I've said, I've been to Germany and the Germans are very stoic. So these words surprise me that they even have it, because you wouldn't even, they're not very expressive people.
No, but she did say that.
They want to be. Look at how many Germans have moved to Mexico. I mean, Frida Kahlo is half German. The Germans, I grew up with German, like godparents. They just love the Mexicans because they can finally let loose. We all are born with all of the emotions in us. It's just literally learning how to express it and thinking if we can or if we can't. And people that are expressing violence truly have been taught that they can, that they are allowed to express it. And Trump taught people like that crazy. Very sweet people all of a sudden started becoming so rude and sarcastic. It was just truly one of those words that you're saying.
Were you going to say something, Marilyn?
Yeah, I have an interesting thought and it kind of fits with everything. You know, I was talking about recently that once I realized that energy was my first language, it was much easier for me to deal with languaging or the language to write and all of that. So now I'm thinking about, and I don't know if this, maybe it's been addressed, I don't know. When we're babies and we have the energy of, you know, when our language is energy, we're learning our second language of whatever language, for us, English, for most of us, we're learning it filtered through our parents with the words they like to use. So we're identifying what we feel that's this big, and then, oh, you're being this, or sit down, or whatever. And I'm not even saying sit down and shut up kind of stuff, but just their languaging for anger or whatever limitation or expansion they use. We're trying to understand as like 2-year-olds, whatever it is we're feeling, oh, I'm this, or this is that, or I'm mad. And it might feel very limiting at that time that there aren't that many words given to us, because what we're feeling, we just came off the boat from out there, you know, we're pretty expanded. So we're trying to figure out and express, and all of a sudden there's languaging put on top of it. So it narrows it down. And until we really realize that we've been, what's the word, brainwashed, whatever is that is our language, that's why it's so important for all these other words and nuances and to look at them in other languages as well, because we have to dig out and figure out, you know, all the limitation placed on us by the limitation of the language from the generation before. And I think it's every generation when we want to expand and be more expressive. So I think it's really interesting to look at it that way, to look at the limitations imposed upon us, all of us, not on purpose, but just by the language itself. So that then now when we're older and we can be more expressive in our reading and our writing and in how we express ourselves, we have more to work with. And I think that's Marshall Rosenberg and Brene Brown and Sita, the work you've been doing is exactly that. And those lists have helped me because, you know, you're mad or sad, or you've had it up to here and you're going to just blow up. I mean, that's what I grew up with, you know, so I've had it up to here. It's really, we're learning language in our own language that we haven't learned before, and certainly didn't learn with the limitations of what was given to us. So this is so important because it gives us an expression that as a child, we were limited and not given that. That makes sense?
Yes.
It does. It really does. Wow. And that kind of is another book we studied, right? It's kind of like all these people got together on the same book, but just in different chapters.
Did any of you ladies get an opportunity to see the series on HBO?
No.
On the book. So you have, you know, different types of people showing up from different cultures and backgrounds. And it's really interesting because my first language is Spanish. So there are many words that I know how to express about how I'm feeling or something that's coming up that we don't have in the English language. And so I often have to go to like the next best word that I can come up with to describe things at times of how it's feeling, you know, and then the French, when they don't know what else, they just go, je ne sais quoi. It's a je ne sais quoi, right? It's this thing kind of thing. Because sometimes we just don't have the vocabulary. When I was in my master's, no, it was my doctorate program. Um, the first thing we were taught in these courses in working with children is that in general, in research, children don't have the words to express what emotions feel like. They don't even have the ability to connect that emotion to how it feels in their body.
Mm.
So, I mean, we really, and especially in this country, we teach a lot about that disconnect, right, from emotion to body.
Yeah.
And I was amazed. And it's interesting because once you start working with children and you can use crayons and just say, well, what color is love and what color? Sometimes little kids would say brown, you know, sad, they would choose a brown color. And then if it's what makes you happy, they would pick up a yellow or an orange color because they were learning that color was a way to express emotion, you know, through play. But it, I mean, we do really do start very young and we really don't get the right terminology to express.
Have you seen the video? There's a couple videos out there of very small children, toddlers, maybe, you know, under 2 years old, watching like a Disney movie scene and just overwhelmed with emotion. Like, you know, the one that I saw today was she was watching Moana, and I've only watched it once, so I don't know the characters well, but anyway, one's adrift on a raft. I think that's most of the movie, but anyway, adrift, and the baby was just sitting there just sobbing, you know, welled up and just couldn't take their, and I thought, where does that emotion come from at that little age? How do they know that sorrow? You know what I mean? She was, it was, I just don't, I can't understand how she would have access to that as little as she is. Yes, Mara.
The body is small, but the soul is big, and the soul remembers. And
Yeah.
little ones are, you know, they're always looking over your shoulder, looking at the people they're hanging out with out there. And there's a lot going on. I think that's really part of it. It's all these puzzle pieces right here. Marie, you're right. They don't have, we're not given the pieces, and yet the soul knows. So how the body or the voice can express itself is adapting to the world here. But what the soul remembers and how the soul expresses itself is, you know, it's really interesting. And it's in my work, I've really seen where babies who came in, who were planning to come in, and through a series of readings had to find alternative ways to come in because of the circumstances. And this one family, that's like the first book that is going to come out as part of the second book. They made a video to share with the family of how this child came in. And they said she would just want to watch it over and over again at just several months old and cry and laugh and want it again. And it was her story of how she came here. So she was channeling it in all along. But watching it, it's like we really got an example of the full soul's expression, but in a little tiny package that can't really talk yet. And that's why we can't talk yet. We'd give away all the secrets, like we're discovering now.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, it's, you know, when you put it like that, and Marilyn and I suspected that that's probably what it is just because of this group here, right? But when you put it like that, and you think about it like that, it's just, it's almost magical, right? You know, to see this emotion that this child is having that, you know, is beyond us.
Well, it really comes down to what Einstein said, and he's like the super intellectual, but he knows, you know, you can live your life two ways. Everyone knows this one. One is though nothing is a miracle, and one is though everything is. And it really is. The fact that I just raised my hand and there's no strings attached. Where would the strings be anyway? I mean, everything is miraculous.
Yeah. Yeah.
And no, I'm not high.
So Marie, what is this chapter is basically just expanding our vocabulary and our understanding of these words. I mean, like, you know, it's obviously taught us the difference between envy and jealousy, or, you know, what the perception or the perceived differences between the two.
And what research is finding, you know, what her research is finding, which is, to me, it's, like I said, I love all the stuff that she does. And and how she derives all this information. But for me, it's just building on top of her book on vulnerability. What was that? Love. Forgot the name of the book. It can come to me. Love. I can't remember. Ugh. And I've got the book. It's white and black, where she addresses her research on vulnerability. You know, so it just, I think there was a section. Did we even cover vulnerability?
I don't.
Vulnerability. Yeah, vulnerability is the emotion that we experience during times of uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. One of the things that she loves to associate vulnerability with is that poem by Roosevelt, The Man in the Arena, because people are so quick to judge, right? Without ever being in that arena, knowing what it's like to be in that person's shoes. And so, you know, when you're being vulnerable, you're putting yourself out there knowing that you could get hurt in the process. And then the research has demonstrated that when you do, how well off the person is when they're willing to do that. Because they're not just relationally better off, they're also even financially was correlated to that, which was interesting. But that's, again, their willingness to know I might just get hurt, but I'm going to put myself out there anyway. You know, and when we open up to someone, we know we run the risk of being judged or criticized or not accepted, you know, or belittled or whatever that is, that judgment. I know for me, when I'm being judged, it's like, it just sits there for me. And I thought, well, I knew that was the risk by opening up, you know, and experiencing that. And sometimes I'll say, you know, that was harsh.
Yeah.
I'll say that was harsh. But and I think it just stems from really understanding the beginning of her research. And I think this is, from my perspective, I believe this is just more addition to what comes of all of that. And of course, words are super important.
Yeah.
We've covered that.
Yeah. Yes, Alona.
So I'm just, she's new to me, and as we're going through this, yes, the words are important, but what I think is a secondary gain is you can choose how to behave based on those words. The word isn't as important to me as the choice that the word offers you.
Oops, sorry. I don't know if that was me. Say that one more time, Alona. So
The words are important, but the words aren't as important as the choices it gives you to behave differently or better.
right.
Because language alone isn't going to change what you do, but language informs your ability to change.
Sure. And yes, the choice, right? So, yeah, so Sita, on your list of emotions, are any of these on there? Sorry.
Oh, of course.
Okay. I'm assuming the basics like envy and jealousy were, but I didn't know if some of these other ones that we've covered so far are on your list.
Oh, I don't know. I've never counted. There's maybe a couple hundred.
Oh, okay. Okay. You're going to have to send us the list. I'm really excited to see it because I want to know how many emotions I have.
Well, as far as that goes, this is something that I've really pondered ever since I read his first work. And I was just flabbergasted as to like, okay, and then, so how is it that we got here? And I agree, of course, so much with Marilyn. It's our soul's journey, what we experience those very first years to reinforce what we came in to work with. I mean, it's just so true. And so a little tiny baby, I've really come to the conclusion is that a little tiny baby is actually born, all of us, we were actually born with all of these emotions in us at the start. How each one is brought to the surface is another story. And the kids that are brought up with support and love and joy, you know, their emotions are going to be radically different by the time they're 5 years old and go to kindergarten than somebody who was raised with a tremendous amount of fear and fighting going on all the time. That we have all of those emotions, just what is going to be coming to the surface, and then how much of it we're going to be feeling, and then it gets coupled with other emotions. So yes, a little tiny baby can be crying for hours and we have no idea, and they could be remembering all of this stuff, but they have no way to express it, so they're just crying and crying. And so little by little they're learning how to deal, we are learning how to deal with our environment.
Yeah.
So I don't even know what I was going to say.
You said a lot though for not knowing.
Okay.
Maria, I know you've got to get going. And I'm just going to assume we're going to move on to the next chapter now. Places we go when things don't go as planned. That sounds ominous. So do you have any words for us to wrap up this chapter that we're just finishing, or are you okay with our assumptions and assertions?
Yeah, I'm okay with it. You know, I just, like I said, I love the way she's broken it down, because when you think like admiration and reverence, you know, it's similar, but yet it's not. It's so much deeper when it's reverence, right? It's looking at the remember last we were talking about comparison and what that causes, and then envy versus jealousy, right? Envy and jealousy has really opened my eyes to pay attention to what I'm saying and how I'm feeling as a result, because now I really do know the difference. And then our two words that we seem to struggle with, what is it? Schadenfreude and Freude.
Yeah, Freude and Schadenfreude.
I still struggle in remembering those words, and apparently they're becoming a trend in this country. I'm thinking I didn't hear them until she brought them up, so I don't know. But I think in the next chapter, doesn't it go into regret?
Yeah, disappointment and regret, discouragement, resignation, and frustration, and boredom.
Yeah, boredom.
Yeah. Jeez. Well, I think, yeah, I'll read the chapter before I really say anything, but I think boredom leads to all of that stuff.
That leads to trouble.
Yeah, trouble, exactly. Yes, Sita?
I have something to add about the words reverence and admiration. I never thought about, to me, thinking about it now, admiration is for somebody, is towards a person. Reverence you can have towards a person, but you can also have towards it's the more with the word sacredness. Like in one of my chapters, I gave the example, I want to revere my life. So we can have reverence for this church and not that church. You know, I mean, reverence does go deeper, and that's all.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned earlier, that for me, reverence is really sacred.
Yes.
It's a very much deeper, more spiritual connection for me, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to say before I leave is that we have these general definitions for words, but in the work that I do with people, I often ask what it means to them.
Good idea.
Because my definition may be entirely different from theirs. And I say this even more so because at Pacifica University in Santa Barbara, which I love that school, they're all in-depth psychology. I took a dream tending course in how to look at dreams and what they're revealing to us. And our dreams are, it's all symbology. Words are really not a deal with our dreams. It's really the symbology of the items that come up. in our dreams. And if I have an interpretation of what that symbol is, let's say if it's a bed, you know, I have an understanding of what my definition of a, I have to ask the person, what does the bed represent to you? And oftentimes it's something entirely different from what I would. And so when I'm interpreting a dream, I'm interpreting what their meaning of those words and those symbols are for them, because for me, it's different.
Right.
That's how I've learned to, you know, consistently always ask, what does that mean to you? And they're like, well, what do you mean? I said, well, define it for me. You know, and they'll define it. And then sometimes I'll, well, what is your definition? And then I'll give my definition. And they're like, oh, you know, they'll start connecting more dots. But it really, to me, the words are words, and yes, they are important, but they also take on a different meaning depending on the person. If you notice through time, different words have changed. I remember when I was taking a philosophy course, Dr. Andrew talked about the word Roger. She said now the word Roger is the name of a person. And when the word first came on, it used to be a foul word to say. And now somebody is named Roger.
Yeah.
You know, so meaning changes with time. And I used to be such a stickler for like how words were used. And I've come to just begin to change that because I know it's different for everybody.
Well,
Yeah.
Dick still is a strange name.
Yes. Yes. And I still feel awkward when I say it.
Yes, me too. It's like, I don't want to go there.
Our CPA years ago, his name was Richard, but they called him Dick. And I always felt so like, I hated saying it because, you know, we have this connotation, but yes. I hope that kind of really rounds it off in terms of the words and how it, you know, we have a general definition, but to each one of us, it may be something different. And our perception might be different.
Right.
So when
I think this is really helpful also going forward in reading the rest of the book and applying this, what you're saying is the basis of why we're bringing this together and sharing together.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm emphasizing generalizations, because oftentimes people think that it's intended for all, and no, there isn't. A
Right.
generalization is going to a general populace. It's not
Yes.
going to the entire. So it's just taking it from that general perspective. And yes, we have outliers. I know for most of my life, I've been the outlier. So,
Yeah.
you know, I don't always conform to what the general is.
Ah, okay.
Well, first, we'll just wrap it up with Sita's last comment. And I'm looking forward to next week. I'm a little hesitant about the chapter just based on the title, but I'm looking forward to it. It's like we're on a word journey. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of excited about my word journey going forward. So hopefully this one doesn't, what's the word? Trigger me. So good luck, everybody. So
Yeah.
Maria, I hope things go well. Sophia, is your phone not working? Is that why we don't get to hear from you? Okay, we'll fix it before next week because we missed hearing from you today. And Donna, you're doing okay? Good, good. It's good to see everybody. So this was quick and to the point. So thank you. And we'll see everybody next week. Sorry, forget it's Monday. Bye, Alona. Have a great week. Glad to see you back.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.